At its most simplistic, Memento is a revenge thriller about Leonard, an insurance claims investigator, looking for the man who raped and murdered his wife. Only, he has a disability.
Since my injury, I can't make new memories.
This allows for what some may call a gimmick, with scenes in reverse order, but I would argue Memento is one of the greatest explorations of subjective reality. While some films can literally show first person, no other film questions reality quite like Memento does. Nolan asks us, what is real? While another philosophical movie asks that question, Memento feels far more plausible and unsettling. It plays on our perception of the world around us.
Memory can change the shape of a room, it can change the color of a car.
It questions what we trust, what we accept as real, and what's real despite our awareness of it. When a character speaks confidently, explains things confidently, we believe in their authority.
Memory's unreliable.
Oh, please.
No, really. Memory's not perfect, it's not even that good. Ask the police. Eyewitness testimony is unreliable.
It's not until the end when we find out how ill-equipped Leonard is to handle an amateur investigation.
And memories can be distorted. They're just an interpretation, they're not a record. And they're irrelevant if you have the facts.
Leonard's illness and his own naivete changes his facts all the time. Besides intentionally writing the final false fact against Teddy, Leonard changes his mind in the middle of a home tattoo and changes tattoo fact 5 at the unheard suggestion of a stranger on the phone. Leonard trusts his vague notes about Natalie even though she's using him to her advantage. His photo of her is so shoddy that he doesn't even recognize her in a scene.
Natalie.
You don't remember me.
He forgets his keys and loses his pen. He forgets what his clothes look like. In fact, he's not even wearing his own clothes through the movie. He's adopted an entirely new identity, from the clothes to the car. When Leonard finds out Teddy's real name from his license information, he says to himself, "This guy told me his name was Teddy." Leonard has no idea what Teddy told him, only that his picture has Teddy's name on it. The film plays on an audience's trust, assumptions, and expectations of a reliable narrator. Nothing more than vague tattoos and everything to do with his personal vengeance. The certainties we take for granted are taken from Leonard, and he's left with his own temporal reality from moment to moment.
My solution to telling the story subjectively was to deny the audience the same information that the protagonist is denied. Effectively tell the story backwards.
This is the closest way we can experience Leonard's memory loss. He talks to people we've never met. A scene starts in the middle of a restaurant. Like Leonard, we have to discern what's important and ask ourselves how we got there. The storytelling not only helps with the memory loss, but helps with our assumptions of character motivation. Natalie seems friendly, intimate with Leonard when she first appears on screen. You get the sense that they've known each other for a while, because we have no concept of time here, much like Leonard.
How am I supposed to heal if I can't feel time?
But as the scene progresses, we find out she's quite deceptive. The backward color scenes are filmed in a subjective way, focusing on Leonard's view of his nameless environment. The cinematographer, Wally Pfister, shot the color scenes over the character's shoulder, following him claustrophobically, or tracking in front of him. Leonard becomes the close centerpiece of his own compositions. We see the details he sees, the tattoos, the pictures, the notes. What he sees is his own immediate reality outside of his head, but the black and white scenes represent an objective viewpoint. High angles looking down on the scene. It's distant and cold. These scenes have extensive narration, which separates them from the colored scene. In the colored scenes, any small amount of narration is Leonard's clear thought.
Come on, I can find a pen. Jeez, come on.
But, playing against expectations, as the two chronologies meet near the end of the film, each takes traits from the other. The colored scenes start winding up with clear action outside of Leonard's thoughts, questioning the reliability of the protagonist, while the black and white scenes unwind in paranoia. We see Leonard's memories on screen, some in black and white and some in color, further playing the idea of subjectivity. And when the chronologies start to converge, they borrow each other's images. And like another subjective movie of the time, there are subliminal frames. There's a split-second frame where Leonard flicks the end of an insulin needle. At first we assume it's about Sammy Jenkins, but eventually we discover it's about Leonard's wife. There's also a lingering shot of Sammy Jenkins in a hospital. Blink and you miss it, Leonard is in the same spot, implying that these characters are essentially the same person. Like any mystery, the questions we ask ourselves is part of the experience. Leonard finds a pickup truck. At the end of the film, the truck's actually his. In a colored scene, Leonard finds the motel room he stayed in during the black and white scenes, recognizing it only by his handwriting on some of the items. Leonard has scratches on his cheek through the colored scenes, but none of the black and white scenes. At the end, we find out he receives them in a fight with Jimmy. Natalie has a cut lip when we first meet her, later caused by Leonard himself. In the scene before their confrontation, Leonard winces from his pained knuckles. So in the next scene, we find out why when he hits her. Leonard's car has a broken window until we see it smashed. And if a character tells him that he's said something before,
You gave me a license plate number?
we'll eventually see when he does.
You have it tattooed on your thigh.
You kind of learn to trust your own handwriting.
Leonard's Polaroid of Natalie has a misleading note that's been scribbled out, because he's coerced by Teddy. This is the only time in the film Leonard writes a note in illegible cursive. Should he forget to scratch it out, he knows it's not his usual handwriting. This shows a false control over his condition. As an audience, we trust his system because the film expects us to. By the end, we don't. Leonard manipulates his own condition and falsifies a note against Teddy, leading to the murder at the beginning. This is the most immoral part of the film.
Do I lie to myself to be happy? In your case, Teddy. Yes, I will.
Here, Leonard makes a calculated decision, and here, he's only a victim of his own manipulation. The genius of the film questions our perception. If there's damage to the brain, then there's damage to reality, and it can happen to you. Beyond the cerebral themes, it's also a tragic story. Leonard's confidence and gusto can overshadow his deep loneliness, his confusion, his frustration. He deludes himself like we all do. He has a loss of time, and his only reason to live is to play investigator. Otherwise, he's in a hospital doing nothing.
The lead character, because of his particular condition, he can never know how long that's been. He's cut loose in time, effectively. We never wanted to step fully outside his head in terms of an objective reality.
This is where the film is most ambiguous, choosing what not to show outside of Leonard's limited information. Is Teddy telling the truth when he says Leonard killed his wife? Did Leonard redact the statements in the police record to give himself a harder puzzle? How long has it been since Leonard's accident? How many people has he killed before the events of the film? What happens to Leonard after he kills Teddy? What happens to Leonard's life when there's no longer an investigation? Who do we really trust? The story ends where the film begins. A murder he won't remember. At least, not for one last photograph.